Alright, so I have a whole bunch of books and I just bought them. I'm going to take them back with me to Ukraine because it's harder to get English language books there. And I thought I would make a video about them as part of my plan to make a video every month, if not more. Alright, so here we go. The Red Queen. Sex and the Evolution of Human Nature. I think this would be a great companion book to Survival of the Prettiest, which I read, which talked about the evolution of beauty in history and in biology. Okay, so the commenters on this book include Anthony Daniels, a distant acquaintance of mine, and the famous Richard Dawkins. So Sex and Evolution. That's one. Alright, it's a very strange little book right here. Lilith's Cave. Okay, a book of Jewish folklore. And this book was mentioned in a really strange Oprah Winfrey clip in which she interviews the survivors of ritualistic cults, like abusers. Something like that. You can look it up if you search for Oprah Winfrey. But this one girl who survived a ritualistic cult said that this book put a lot of things in perspective. Very strange. I want to check it out. The Origin of Political Order by Francis Fukuyama. This book really changed my thinking about the world. It really made a huge influence on me. I listened to it in audio, and I've been planning for probably a year and a half now to make a video, if not a series of videos, about this book. And I thought that would be easier to do if I also had a paper copy. So here's the paper copy. Fantastic historian. My advice for reading Fukuyama is just ignore his ultimate conclusions. He's an academic. He has the typical academia bias, thinking that social democracy is the end of history. So like everything except for his ultimate conclusion is fantastic because it's just data. And whatever you think you understand about the world, whatever your theories are, you should just read this book and test your ideas against the evidence that he presents. Fantastic book. Probably, of all the ones here, this is probably the single most important one. Okay, so then I got these three little beauties. Television, Convoy Home, Saddam Hussein and the Dark Princes of Love. These are three longish stories which I self-published as books. I think they are fantastic, especially these two. And I hadn't actually seen the physical ones yet. I've only seen the electronic copy. I'm generally pretty pleased. It's like the quality's nice, nice enough. A lot of books now, in order, I think, to distinguish them from electronic books, like do really crazy stuff. Like on every page has little swirls or different types of fonts. So I didn't do any of that, although I could have. It would have been more work. But really nice. It looks beautiful. The texture feels a little strange. Feels a little rubbery. But other than that, I think they're beautiful. I'm quite pleased. I did this through CreateSpace on Amazon. Little books. My spines were too thin to print anything on the spine. I think this one's not even 50 pages, so that's how long they are. Alright, so then we have two books by the recently retired Thomas Sowell. Boom. Intellectuals and Society, Intellectuals and Race. Love Thomas Sowell, or he pronounces it Soul. I've heard it pronounced Soul, I should say, which bothers me because I think it reads Sowell very nicely, but I guess I'm wrong. So Thomas Sowell. It's in one or both of these books that he observes that leftists tend to look at the world in terms of good versus evil, and conservatives tend to look at the world in terms of trade-offs. So since realizing and internalizing that observation, I haven't been able to stop seeing it. It's evident everywhere. That's why leftists are so violent, because they think they're fighting against evil. They've convinced themselves that this is a good versus evil, or conservatives kind of just see trade-offs. So he's extremely quotable, he's extremely insightful, very clear writing, which I think is also a mark of intelligence, and honesty, lies, love, complexity, I think Marx. Yeah, really looking forward to these. And I think a good companion to them would be this book, Bowling Alone, by Robert Putnam. And I've read a lot about this book. I haven't read the book itself. I wish it wasn't so long. I would love for this to be 100 pages. If it was 100 pages, I would read this probably today. Instead, it's 400 pages and very small print. Ooh, a lot of charts. Alright, so Bowling Alone is about the disintegration of American communities, how we're becoming more isolated from our neighbors. What I heard about this book was that Robert Putnam was a Harvard professor, I think psychology, sociology, one of those soft, squishy sciences, and he wanted to show how great diversity was, so he did an extremely well-funded study. I forgot if it was 5 years or 10 years, but the data was so damning, showing that diversity and multiculturalism causes people to isolate themselves, not only from the foreign groups, but from other members of their own group, that he was just devastated and waited for a long time before publishing his results. I could be wrong. Okay, so that's what I've read about this book. And I read about it on VDare and in other places as well. And then I was having an argument online with some liberal girl, and she's like, "What are you talking about? I'm an adjunct professor. I teach Bowling Alone to my students. It doesn't say anything like that." And I think she's probably wrong. You can never underestimate liberals' capacity for self-deception. I think she's probably wrong. But nevertheless, this is such an important book from such an authority. The research carried out in such a scientific way that it deserves attention. All right. So this book with the cool cover, like an upside down, I don't know if that's a dog or looks like a poodle. I think it's a poodle. The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. And it's a novel. I think it's about an autistic child, but I don't even remember because I ordered this so long ago. Let me read the back. Christopher John Francis Boone knows all the countries of the world and their capitals and every prime number up to 7,057. He relates well to animal but has no understanding of human emotions. He cannot stand to be touched, and he detests the color yellow. My favorite color. Yeah, okay, so it's a novel about an autistic boy. Looking forward to that, because we're learning more about autism. It's becoming much more prevalent. Some call it an epidemic, and we're also seeing it as kind of a scale. So a lot of us have some autistic traits without having full-blown autism. Catchy title too, and beautiful cover. The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. All right. Peek-a-boo Moon. It's for the little guy. Can we live 150 years? Can we write any more gimmicky titles. I kind of regret buying this. I think it's going to be a ton of pseudoscience, but I want to check it out. I think pseudoscience is good for coming up with ideas, but you need to then confirm those ideas with the gold standard of science, which is double-blind experiments. And actually, it's really cool if somebody can explain nutrition based on the habits of lions, or tells a good story, or tells a good anecdote. But the gold standard is double-blind experiments. I hate the fact that we know more about some distant galaxy than we do about human nutrition. And it's a problem of too much information, not a lack of, combined with a whole bunch of wishful thinking. That was an observation in Peter Thiel's book, which I reviewed a little while ago. 0 to 1. Good book. Check out my review. Alright, Can We Live to Be 150 Years? Your Body Maintenance Handbook. So I'll check it out, but I already feel a little bit manipulated by this title. Ooh, okay. This book. Alright, if you haven't already seen the video from, I believe it was the 1950s, of a Japanese communist getting killed on stage during a live television broadcast by a sword, go Google that now. Say Japanese communist killed on stage. Or don't. It's graphic. But, I mean, there's no, like, blood and stuff, but you do see a man get killed. So I think this is, oh, and the guy that killed him was a Japanese nationalist. He was still a teenager, I believe. And he may very well have saved Japan from communism and the mass murder that goes with it. So I consider him a hero. And this is a novel about him. Yeah, called 17. That was his age. 17. These are two novels. See, and that's the first one, called 17, about that young man who kills a Japanese communism on stage. He was a Japanese nationalist. Okay, this next book would go well with these three little guys. Alright, I have a lot more writing to do in my life. It's my destiny. I'm just not getting to it. Maybe this will help. The War of Art. Break through the blocks and win your inner creative battles. Alright, I've heard this very highly recommended. I heard about this on the Joe Rogan podcast. So whatever that means. Alright, moving along. I want to keep this under 15 minutes. Cesar's Messiah. I saw an interview with this guy. This is not an academic book. This is all research that has happened outside of academia. Jesus' life almost ridiculously parallels the life of an ancient Roman leader. And the theory is that the Romans knew the people needed a religion, so rather than give them like an aggressive conquering religion, they figured let's just give them a religion that emphasizes like love and forgiveness so that these people aren't a problem for us. Very controversial, very interesting. Caesar's Messiah, and I think a lot of this book will just be showing the coincidences, the parallels in the life of a particular ancient Roman leader and Jesus. Alright, I recently reconnected on Facebook with one of my old Army buddies. He was one of the few Stanford University grads that went not only into the Army like me, but combat arms. So he and I used to drive 3 times a week, carpool, down to Santa Clara to do ROTC, because while we were at Stanford, there was no ROTC program there because the hippies had burnt down the ROTC building in the 70s. If I understand correctly, that it's back at Stanford now. In any case, I found out he's a writer. Really cool. Book of science fiction. I want to write some science fiction too. I want to read his perspective. So I'm pretty excited to see this. 10 stories about cursed alien artifacts, interstellar investment banking, That's his post-military career. Smart guy. Ancient Alien Astronauts, Parallel Timelines, Alien Experimentations, and Space Colonization Gone Horribly Wrong. This will be a fun read. And lastly, one of the great works of Stoicism, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The soul is dyed by the color of its thoughts. Look things in the face and know them for what they are. All right, have a great one. Thanks.